So originally I was going to go see Death in the Nile, but then I was like, you know what? I just want a fun time. So I'm going to go see Uncharted.
Yeah.
And
that's the right call.
And it was a really, really fun time.
Mm-hmm.
And
but Uncharted's also super flip-flopped.
Yeah, it is, because a critic score is like
35,
yeah,
and then audience is 90.
Yeah.
You're like, ooh.
And that was also I had big reservation. Like, well, usually I side more with the critic side of things. So if critics are like, man, this is a 30-something%, then usually I'm gonna be like, dang, I'm gonna think this movie is a piece of crap.
That's bad.
But I watched it and I had a really fun time. Okay.
How many of the games did you play?
I played 2 of them.
2 of them?
Yeah,
okay.
at least 2 of them.
I just did the first one.
I might have done it. I might have actually done all 3.
I just did the first one.
I think there's 3 of them.
There's 3.
Yeah. I think, yeah. And so I honestly may have played all 3 of them. But
it's been so long.
This is not based on the game. Like, I know it's called Uncharted. I know it has Nathan Drake in it. I know people were like, oh my gosh, it's a video game adaptation. It's done by Sony and their movie studio. That's great. That's fine. It's not based on the game. Like, it's ridiculous that they would even go this route.
Is that how they're advertising it?
What, based on the game?
Yeah, like, oh, the video game brought to life, like type of thing.
I don't know. I actually
haven't noticed. Like,
I haven't seen
anything from Sony.
Right, but again, Sony made it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But they don't they're not a major player in it.
Right.
So when I go watch my stuff, like, Sony doesn't immediately pop up as somebody that I'm looking at movies information from.
Right, yeah.
So I haven't actually heard what Sony's had to say.
Yeah.
Only what the main reviewers have had to say, and they don't work for Sony.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know if they're advertising this as like, yo, this is the game in real life.
Well, I guess I should clarify. So when I say Sony made it, obviously Sony is a production studio, but I'm talking about Sony PlayStation.
Correct.
Actually, like, Sony has a PlayStation division to make movies now.
Yes,
yeah. So I just want to
do
clarify a little bit.
The intro?
Yeah. So they have a PlayStation intro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
at the beginning.
That's going to be going forward.
Right. Exactly. So like, obviously now we have a video game division of our production studio that's going to bust out these video game adaptations, right?
Which I'm fine with.
Which is cool and it's awesome. And then even like when they're showing stuff, I was like, oh man, I would love to see a God of War movie, right? Like, oh, it would be so
could you imagine
good.
That?
But when you go so far, there are some times where it feels, where Tom Holland feels like Nathan Drake because he's climbing something, and when he puts on
this classic shirt and the
holster? Thank you. Couldn't remember holster. When he puts on the holster and you're like, oh yeah, like that's cool.
Yeah.
But
he's just not.
Yeah. So a couple of things, right?
Okay.
Tom Holland, miscast for sure. 1,000%. Not Nathan Drake. I wish they would have picked somebody else. He is not the right fit for this role. I love Tom Holland in this action movie, but if you're saying I'm going to make Uncharted and I need a Nathan Drake, never would I have said go look at Tom Holland for Nathan Drake. Okay, so
don't they want Nathan Fillion to do it?
Maybe he looks like Nathan Drake.
Well, that's what you're saying.
God,
he did like a fan, like a YouTube, short movie of it.
And he was
like, at that time, this was a while, and everyone's like, hello,
well, and that's tough, right? Because Mark Wahlberg was supposed to play Drake.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, when he was originally attached with David O. Russell. Russell? David O. is what I would call him. I think it's Russell. He was going to be Nathan Drake. Which even then, I'm like, he probably still was a better fit. Because I always pictured Nathan Drake as an older man.
Yeah. Not an old man.
Not an old man, an older man.
Yeah, older than Tom Holland. Tom Holland's young guy.
He's 17 still.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how, but he's definitely a teenager. And I was like, all right, fine. But if you tell yourself, like, and I think most people going to see this movie actually are not Uncharted players.
And I think that's why the audience score is so high.
Right, because as an action movie, you're like, oh, that's cool. This is actually a really cool, fun action flick.
That's great. I'm glad.
Yeah, but they do something in this movie. So there's 2 like major gripes I have with this movie. And one of them is the villain in this movie, the big bad, is so awful. It's such a bad villain.
Not even scary.
Not even a little bit. And the reason being is because they don't actually become the true villain until the 3rd act.
Oh.
And it's so it seems like there are no stakes in the movie until the very end. Like, you don't actually really know what would happen to Nathan Drake if he didn't go on this mission, right? There's no reason other than his pride that he wants to go and fulfill this adventure. Because he even, like, halfway through the movie, he's like, I'm out, I'm done. Like, and yeah, as an audience, you're like, yeah, he has no reason to be here. None, other than...
Dang, that's bummer.
Yeah, like, he could go home and his life would stay the same. But it wasn't, like, it's not like if you, like, go find the gold or I'll kill your wife and children.
Yeah.
And you're like, I have to find the gold and I cannot quit. Like, that is not, like, there are no stakes because the villain is not even, like, a real villain.
Did they bring in, like, a motivation?
No.
Oh,
No.
So that's super hard to, like, root for somebody then.
It's just two people who want to find gold, right? And that's why I'm like, it's fine. Like, there's no real reason for them to go other than they want to because they like to, and I'm like, whatever. It doesn't take away from the fact that it's a fun action movie, but it does. I could see why critically people are like, this is not a good movie, because why do I care about what this character's doing if he doesn't even know why he's doing what he's doing? Okay. So no stakes due to the fact that there's no real villain or anything terrible going on, right? Okay, but this movie does something that irritates me beyond no end. And in a video game, it works. In a movie, it does not.
I've heard that a lot.
What this?
People,
what?
I don't know, but people are like, "Yo, this is a great video game, but not like it. It can't transfer to be a movie."
And I'm gonna tell you
again. I don't know if it's the same thing, but I heard a few people say that.
I don't know. I haven't watched not one review for Uncharted, but when you have a video game, the biggest obstacle usually in that video game is bad guys, right? You have a lot of bad guys. You have a lot of goons.
Yeah.
A lot of NPCs coming after you. And even in Uncharted, you kill those people. Like, you shoot those people and you kill them. And for some reason in a video game, you're like, yeah, I'm cool with that. I'll kill somebody.
Well, yeah,
to get to the goal.
You're trying to progress level to level.
Right.
Checkpoint to checkpoint, whatever you want to call it.
But in a movie, it doesn't work because Tom Holland is killing people. He's murdering people.
Okay.
And he does not care at all. At all. Because the movie, for lack of a better term, is sending NPCs after him, right? All the bad guy goons are going after Tom Holland. And he's kicking them off and shooting them and hitting them, and they're dying.
Okay.
And there's no remorse for it whatsoever. Like, never is he like, oh my God, I'm killing people. Like, dude, you're straight up murdering people. And you don't feel anything about that? Like, no part of you is concerned that you are murdering all these people? Everybody's murdering people in this movie.
Is it a violent movie?
Not at all. And I'm going to give you another little detail it's
PG-13, so I mean,
yeah.
How many people's... I mean, they're all...
Do you care if I spoil something for you?
I really, really don't.
Okay. Okay.
I really don't.
So the whole movie, you think there's a villain, and you think it's Antonio Banderas, okay? So you think he's the villain of this movie. And God, I forget that girl's name. And I really should have remembered because she's amazing in it. But he has someone who's working for him who's trying to stop Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg, which is Sully and Nate Drake,
Sully.
right? And you get the sense that she's sort of like his right-hand man. You know, go out and take care of business for me. So he's in charge. She listens to what he says. Well, in the third act, she slits his throat. She slits Antonio Banderas' throat. Okay? It is the worst throat cut I've ever seen in my whole life.
Did she do it with like a toothpick or something?
She did it with a blade that she can, like, for your ring finger, and then she puts it here and then slices his throat, and it literally looks like someone got like red food coloring and just like went across his neck. No wound. The smallest amount of blood I've ever seen a neck wound produce. Awful. Like a high school play, like cutthroat. Like it was a terrible death scene for this movie. And that's how they introduce her as the new bad. Is like she kills her boss. Now she's in charge, and everyone's also like, yeah, this makes sense, and they just go along with it, and you're just like, what? Like, I have no idea why they would just be okay with it, and I feel like it didn't set her up to be the villain. And so when she becomes the villain,
ran out of time. Or
yeah,
something.
and
Just put her in.
So it was a mess, and it didn't, because it doesn't matter who the villain is, obviously, right? If they're like, we can just swap them, we'll just swap the villains at the very end, and it actually changes nothing for Nate and Sully at all. Doesn't make a difference who the villain is. You could swap them, and they won't care because they're after the same thing, which is treasure. Great movie. So much fun.
Great movie.
Had a blast.
Movie sucked.